So I will call the open board meeting of Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 to order and let you know that Trustee Hutchins has sent his regrets today. I squeal CM na sietya, ana squalawan kawana silam nala. We respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Coatsan people where we live, learn, and play. Moving to the adoption of the agenda item 2, I'd like you first to add to the agenda item 7.2.5, diverse learners, and then ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Trustee Cross, seconded by Trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to minutes. The first is the minutes of the June the 1st, 2021 open board meeting. Ask for a motion to adopt the minutes, please. Moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 3.3.2, minutes of the June 15th, 2021 special open board meeting. A motion to adopt the minutes, please. Moved by Trustee Cross, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 3.3, minutes of the June 29th, 2021 special open board meeting. A motion to adopt the minutes, please. Moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee Kemmler. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving through recognition and delegations, we don't have anything this evening on item 4. To report of closed meeting. Mr. Sandquist, please.
Thank you. The board met in closed session for 1 hour before the start of this open. They discussed personnel, property items, and a disposal bylaw. They will go back into closed session following open.
Thank you, Mr. Sandquist. Moving to old business first, the action list. And if Mr. Sandquist could put the action list up for us, that would be good.
One moment.
First, is there anything that staff wishes to apprise us of on the action list?
I would, if possible, I'd like to discuss the legacy wall. And I know that's something that's been on our action list for a number of months, but presently right now it is ready to go. And what we're waiting to do is unveil our wall when the board meets in person.
Thank you.
And then I'd like to move on to the action item of flag poles. Presently right now we're doing a refresh on the school board building on the exterior. And so we are currently looking at how do we provide more additional flag poles that could be incorporated into the wall, which is the one that faces the street side of the building on the southwest side. So we will be looking at incorporating a number of options for more flags to be constructed and placed there over time as we actually need them.
Thank you, Superintendent. Secretary Treasurer, anything to update us on? Could you put your mic?
Just that I have a couple of outstanding policy items that I'm hoping to get to quickly on the early years and climate change committees.
Thank you. Superintendent?
I have one more. I just want to let the board know that we have a number of signs that will be going up across our school district. The board approved some signs that were a mock-up from last spring. And so we will have 2 by 3 foot signs that will be highly visible at each one of our school locations. And they will be going up through the month of September. And they are signs that welcome our visitors and our guests and our community and our parents and our staff, not only through English, but through Hulkaminam.
Thank you. And I'd just let you know that the topics on the board retreat and diverse learners are on our agenda. Okay, moving back to the formal agenda. Moving us to item 7, Chair of the Board. And the first item is the Indigenous Education Committee Trustee Knowledge Series. Could you put that up, please, Secretary Treasurer? And I just start by saying that this is item 3 in the outlines that the Indigenous Education Committee of BCSDA are preparing for trustees. And you'll notice that what this one is doing around student success is that Indigenous students need access to educational opportunities that ensure they are confident in their identity, their families, their communities, and traditional values, languages, and cultures. So it certainly is an orientation that I know that our schools are embracing in order for Indigenous students to have success. You'll also notice that there is BCT areas that are referenced for us so that we can make sure that we are responding for Indigenous students. And I pass to Trustee Thorne if you would like to comment on this section.
We've got a couple more that are up for review with the board of directors before they're released. But we started this a few months ago, and it was a series of 5. And basically, advice we took from the very first meetings, taking a step backwards so that we could bring everybody forward, and going over the steps and things that needed to be done, where we were with relations with BCSTA, where we were with the awareness of UNDRIP, looking at what we needed to learn in schools, and in particular with how we're looking to change for better tomorrow because of what's been found in the ground and the process everybody's going through. But it was all good, and I really thank everybody for helping. The committee's been really strong. And this board has really given me the strength to keep pushing forward and be more vocal about what needs to happen and hopefully what will happen. So briefly, that's it in a nutshell. It's all there in black and white. We put them in a proper order so you can look at them, because from 1 on down is where we prioritize things for people to read. And I think that's all I really want to say right now.
Thank you. And trustees will note that there are 2 school districts who have been referenced for in obtaining more information around Indigenous education, and these are Quesnel and Cowichan Valley. So we certainly have our staff to thank for all of the resources that
they were the 2 of the whole province that stood out as being the strongest. I'm proud to be part of District 79.
Yeah, that's great. And thank you for your work on that committee, Trustee Thorne. Okay, item 7.1.2 is our board retreat, and it has been changed to November the 6th, 2021. Gordon Lee is able to facilitate us, and we're looking at 9 to 12 in the morning as our retreat time. And we're looking for a location in order to host us. And we're certainly hoping it will be in person, but we'll just have to await what happens next from the provincial health officer. Okay, any questions about the retreat? Okay, so moving to item 3, which is new Cowichan Secondary School blessing preparation of the land. And Trustee Thorne and I have met with Cowichan Tribe's elders, and we started working on preparing a blessing for the property, as well as the blessing of our Indigenous children as they enter the school to protect them on their educational journey. It will occur on September the 24th, which is coming up very soon, at noon on the new property site. Trustee Thorne and a few elders and I have been working with Cowichan Tribes to try to detail any of the sort of pieces of the ceremony that haven't been quite etched in stone. What we do know is we will have a speaker from Cowichan Tribes, who is Councillor Albie Charlie. We will have speakers after that, and I've just finished a letter to the Minister of Education encouraging her to come, and our Director of Communications has designed a really great looking invitation to enclose with the letter. And then we will have the Cinquaw dancers, which are being organized by Robert George. And so and then we're going to have a luncheon at VIU for those in attendance. Now we're not sending the invitation out just in newspapers or whatever. We're hoping for a culturally appropriate word of mouth invitation to those that we feel is important to have there. And you certainly will be getting an invitation. So I'm hoping that some of you at least can be in attendance. Any questions about that ceremony? Okay, so moving to item 4, which is September 30th, Truth and Reconciliation Day. Oh, let me go back to the first, the blessing. Trustee Thorne, did you want to say anything around that?
I think my Sheshayeth Robert will be doing part of the blessing. I'll be doing mine probably at 4:30 in the morning, because it's something. It's just the way we do it. We don't want to mix too many things simultaneously, so you have to have a little space. And Kwakwaleza, Joe Charlie will do the opening prayer as well as start the day off. I think we've got everything pretty much in order, and it's good to do something traditionally, and I think it's going to be good. Before we take something from the ground, it's giving us life. It's giving us a lot of things, and we have to respect that. A lot of people see ground and say, well, I'm just going to dig it up and then we're going to do something. You can't just do that. You have to say thank you. That's it.
Thank you. So moving to September 30th, Truth and Reconciliation Day, and we all know that the federal government has created that as a holiday for us. Locally, what we know so far is that there will be a walk in the community, which will start from VIU and end at the Selam Laylam Gym. I haven't seen any announcement yet, but watch for it. Trustee Thorne, do you know anything else about the walk?
I know that they're going to be advertising probably this week. And much like the first, it's by word of mouth. I know I plan on attending there because it's already being arranged, and I think we're going to hear a lot of people talking at the Selam Laylam. So I'd rather join what's already existing as opposed to creating something for us and dividing the people, so the same message doesn't come across. That's just my opinion, but like I said, they're going to start advertising, but I know that they're depending solely on word of mouth, and that's usually that's kind of like what we did with the Chemainus, or the Chemainus walk for Penelopes.
Okay, thank you. So if we get anything in writing, we'll certainly circulate it to everyone. Okay, moving to item 7.2 for board action. And the first one is related to the provincial consultation on finance. And we have provided input in the past. I've done an in-person videoing. I've done a videotape. And last year, I think we went to the survey. And the suggestion that I make to you is that I complete the survey this year on the board's behalf. It does ask the right questions. There's lots of room for input, and I think that's one piece of information that goes in. It's important that we do send something in, but where it goes, I'm really unclear. So the recommended motion is that we submit a response again through the survey. Is there someone who would like to put that in motion? Moved by trustee Croft, seconded by trustee Thorn. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 2, Remembrance Day. And the suggestion is that we contribute to a wreath for the Board of Education on each of the Remembrance Day ceremonies. Trustee Croft, are you moving that?
So moved. Yes.
Moved
Yes.
by trustee Croft, seconded by trustee Thorn. And a comment from trustee.
Just a comment
Yes.
to alert the Legion that we're going to do so that they recognize that we are there. Remember last year we had a little bit of a communication problem.
Yes. Well, this is just around the wreath. So it's not saying we want to attend. I'm not sure if trustees want to attend. Last year we were not invited to attend. I think that's what trustee Thorn is referencing. Okay, so the motion is on the table. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 3, which is World Teachers Day. And once again, the motion is for the Teachers Day be referred to the chair and superintendent. Is there someone willing to make that motion? Moved by trustee Thorn, seconded by trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. And this year, the National Principals Month is October, coming up very quickly. And the suggested motion refers appropriate recognition of the month to the chair and superintendent. Just moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. And moving to item 7.2.5, communications, diverse learners. And on the action list, you may remember that we were asking staff to give us, first of all, how much was the difference between what we were providing and what we needed, which sounded too close to a needs budget, that we didn't want to go in that direction. So it was changed to prepare an analysis of the scope of work to complete the request. And it seems like that one wasn't, these motions weren't taking us quickly enough to where we wanted to be. And so a new motion has been prepared for your consideration. And it reads that the Board of Education of School District 79, Cowichan Valley, directs staff to develop an inclusive education communications plan for effective communication with parents and the community. Is there a mover of the motion? Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Croft. Comments on the motion or debate? Trustee Croft?
In following up on the previous referral to staff, one of the things we all know is that successful work for diverse learners is so dependent on communication with the parents, and that this communication is individualized. But sometimes it's a good idea to have some standards, some communication that's ready at hand to use if people choose to. So I think we were just looking at preparing some tools that would be helpful to families and to staff as they work together.
Thank you. Any further debate on the motion? Did I have a mover and seconder? Yes, I did. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 8, Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you very much. I would like to introduce two parties, and I'm wondering if I could ask for them to be moved into our meeting. All right. So I'd like to introduce Darlene. I don't know if you have your camera that you could put on, perhaps. We can see your face.
I'm in progress. There
Very
it
good.
is.
So I'd like to introduce Darlene Crane to the Board of Education today. Darlene Crane comes with a wealth of experiences with regard to literacy and numeracy across North America. So not only in Canada, but south of the border as well. So welcome to Darlene.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you. We're really glad to have you here. And you're located in which building then?
I am in the building next door to the board office, the learning services, I believe.
Oh,
Learning
okay.
support.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darlene. And then we have Erin Egland, and Erin is our new Associate Secretary Treasurer. And Erin comes with a wealth of information as well. She has experience. She has been an educator and a lead with VIU with regard to her role as a Associate Secretary Treasurer. So Erin is also from the Cowichan Valley, and so welcome to Erin.
Hearty welcome from
Thank
the
you.
board as well. And we know where you're located in the main
That's
board.
right.
So,
Yeah, and happy for a visit at any time.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you very much, ladies. All right, I'd like to move to 8.1.3. There has been a number of adjustments with regard to principals and vice principals across the district that were made over the summer. And so I'd like to welcome Scott Jackson. He will be appointed as a temporary principal at Bench Elementary. And then we have Rhonda LaForge. Rhonda LaForge was in a temporary position last year as a vice principal, and she has been appointed on a temporary basis at Chemainus Secondary School. And then moving on to Maple Bay Elementary, Vanessa McDowell has been appointed as a temporary principal. And then taking her place at Francis Kelsey is Darren Hart, and Darren Hart was with us as well last year temporarily, and so he has been put in that temporary position. So we welcome all of our principals and our vice principals who are new to their positions that occurred over the summer.
Thank you.
All right.
Looks like we have a great leadership team. Thank you very much.
So moving on to 8.1.4, and that's with regard to COVID-19 guidelines for K-12. It certainly is an area that's important and close to every parent's heart here in our community. So right now we have a number of changes with regard to the COVID-19 communicable disease guidelines, K-12. We're starting our schools near normal. And so that's the language of the ministry, and we take our direction from the Ministry of Education as well as the Provincial Health Office. And so right now we know we have a number of circumstances that have been put into place and into action to ensure the safety and the well-being of all of our learners, as well as our adults and our staff in our buildings. And so we have a robust illness policy plan. And so we would expect that if there's any illness by in a staff member or in a student, when they do their health and safety check, that they would actually remain at home until they're feeling much better. We also continue to promote effective hygiene practices with regard to washing hands and how do we do that, and also that respiratory etiquette. We also have some environmental measures that we have put in place around cleaning and disinfecting our schools and our high-touch surface areas. We activated that last year and we continue to do so this year. We also have been working on supporting and promoting and increasing our HVAC systems to have better ventilation. And so we do know that there's a number of changes that have been promoted and expected this year. We're not moving into cohorts. We would be looking at going back to near normal business. We wouldn't be looking at physical distancing, but actually looking at how do we physically conduct ourselves when we're with others around our physical proximity and taking note of where we are in our physical space. We also know that we're having school gatherings and activities, and extracurricular activities will go back to normal as well. But we are promoting outdoor activities, as well as promoting masks for K-3 learners. But all masks are expected by our grade 4 to grade 12 students, staff, inside the buildings and on the bus. And so that will continue to occur. And I think that overall, our schools are very poised. We do meet regularly with our medical health officer, Shannon Waters, with regard to ensuring that we're in touch with our local medical health officer around anything that may occur. And overall, we have some great site-based joint health and safety committees who really work closely together around any issues that may be occurring at the schools. And so they can address those situations immediately through those processes that we have in place. And then just lastly, I do know that the Island Health has reached out to us and will be looking at some of our school sites as pop-up vaccination clinics. And so we'll be working with our Island Health partners in terms of how do we promote that and how do we actually support those people who choose to be vaccinated.
Thank you. Are there any questions of our superintendent? Trustee Croft?
I think you said this, but just to clarify, so the pop-up clinics that would be taking place at the schools are for the general public as well as people who are involved at the school?
They are. Yes, they are there, and they will be there for the community as well as students and maybe even staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please continue.
Oh, I think there was another question.
Oh, I can't see any hands. Oh, sorry, Trustee Dolman. Could you put your mic on, Trustee Dolman?
There we go. Do we know how many of our students and our staff are vaccinated? We have a rough idea.
You know, we don't, but if we look at the provincial average, we do know that it's upward of 82% at the last number that was discussed with regard to the number of people or students from age 12 to 17 have at least had one vaccination. And so I think if we take that information and we apply it locally, I would imagine that we could suggest that would be the same here in our locale. So we can't really ask that. It's personal health information. It's just a matter of our own gauge.
Any further questions then? Oh, Trustee Dolman?
Is the school district going to be affected by this new vaccine passport rules that they are going to put into place?
Superintendent?
I don't believe we will be impacted with regard to that. I think it's just new. And so I'm sure there's going to be more questions and answers at this point in time, but I don't believe we'll be impacted. But I still think that there are some question marks with regard to field trips. And so if we do have a class and teachers who maybe go on a field trip, we'll have to probably look at how do we actually navigate that. And so that could impact us. But I think that there's still some questions that need to be worked out as they made the announcement this afternoon at 2 o'clock today.
Thank you. Okay, I think you can continue to item 5 now.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to alert the board that as of last year on September the 1st, 2020, we have a ministerial order with regard to enhancing student learning. And within that framework, we actually have to provide the ministry a report with regard to how well our students are doing overall. And so that report has been drafted and it will be coming to the board later on this month. It's due by September the 30th. And we will be looking at how we are supporting our learners overall. It's a 10-page report and there's some criteria that the ministry expects in that report. And so it will be coming to the board in the near future. I will move on to the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. We've had to change our school calendar, and so you'll see that on the school calendar that was just brought up by our Secretary Treasurer. It is now positioned on that particular day. We do know that it is a day of honor and recognition, and so it will make some adjustments with regard to our activities that usually occur on September the 30th around Orange Shirt Day. And I do know presently right now our Indigenous area of education, they're certainly looking at that in maybe a whole week. And how do we actually have activities that engage our learners around reconciliation across the district. So more information to come. And again, I think I moved that into Orange Shirt Day, which is item 8.1.7. And so we know that we'll be working toward that end. And I think that it is on a Thursday. And so it will change the dynamic of the week as well with regard to Monday through Wednesday, and then Friday being another day after that particular day of recognition and acknowledgement. So I'd like to move on, if I could, to 8.1.8, and that's around our non-instructional day, September the 27th. Thank you very much, Secretary Treasurer Jason Sandquist. Here you can see that we have a poster with regard to our non-instructional day. We have Kevin Lamoureux. He is presently facilitating our ad hoc anti-racism committee by the board. But what he's providing a keynote on that particular day, and it will be our Indigenous focused non-instructional day. And that has been set up by the ministry with regard to their work with FNESC, which is the First Nations Education Steering Committee. And so on that particular day, we have a number of excellent workshops that have been organized by our non-instructional day team. And there are so many things to choose from. And so I think that this is and it will be a great event in learning, but you can see that we're looking at healing the wound with the weapon, which is reimagining schools as places of healing. So we're very excited to hear Kevin Lamoureux on our non-instructional day for our first hour and a half, and he will be there for all of our staff members. And at this point, we're debating and determining how we actually have that, if that will be via Zoom or whether that will be in person. So again, very grateful for our Indigenous education and our non-instructional day team who have actually put that together. Very, very excellent work. And then I'll move on, if there's no questions by the board, to 8.19 around summertime student engagement. We were very cognizant that we had a number of students who may not have been in attendance in our schools, certainly across, I don't think that's it yet, Jason, but thank you. But we had a number of students who we know needed some support around re-engaging with their schools, their staff, their friends. And so we looked at a number of ways that we could do that. And so in the educational staff, we had our Indigenous support workers, Soutons who are counselors, as well as our Hul'qumi'num language cultural advisors, as well as our teachers. They came to work a week earlier if they chose to. And we had 15 schools where those staff members actually came in to support our learners around re-engagement activities. So, and in Alexander, Coheman, Quamachin, Cowichan Secondary, Seavolk, Chemainus Secondary, Francis Kelsey, Chemainus Elementary, Crofton, Bench, also in our distance learning program, Discovery, Bonner, Townsend, and Drinkwater. And so all of those services were offered to capture some of our students who may need that support. And I also know that in the schools of Alexander, Coheman, Quamachin, and Cowichan Secondary, there were some additional activities. So there was an open house, there was food, there was swag, there was busing to some of the activities, as well as some school supplies. And so those Soutons who are support transitional counselors will say, Soutons is in Hul'qumi'num language. They are there to support and provide those transitional opportunities for some of our learners, just to help them navigate this, because it may be a while since they have been at the school site. And so a lot of support to try to bring all of our learners back in a way that makes sense for them individually. If there aren't any questions, I'll move on to number 10 item. And that is around before and after school care at Bench Elementary. So last spring, the board made a decision that we would be looking at how do we run our own before and after school care at Bench Elementary. We have presently developed a strong manual of policies and procedures that was developed over the summertime by some of our staff members here. And so presently right now we are waiting for final approval from licensing with regard to getting that program up and running. I know that our staff is as hopeful that it could occur this week. We were allowed to put out an expression of interest informally to see how many families may be interested in the before and after school care. And we had actually enough interest to fill the program in the afternoon, and in the AM program, it's not quite full as of yet, but we will continue working with licensing as well as working with the families in the community in that particular locale so that we can get this up and running as soon as possible. Okay, if there aren't any questions, I will move on to summer learning opportunities. And now, Mr. Sandquist, there we go. I wanted to share with the board that our coordinators and our helping teachers, they put on some excellent learning opportunities for our staff across the community. And so you can see getting ready for this next year. And so in this past week before school started, you can see that on each day, Monday through Thursday, there were a number of workshops that were developed for teachers and other staff members who wanted to actually kick off their year with some excellent learning opportunities to prepare themselves for this school year. And so you can see that we had standards-based assessment for 8 to 12. We had reading strategies in a play-based classroom for K to 3. We had an opportunity here about challenge-based inquiry model. And so a number of great opportunities. And we do know that we had a number of staff who took that as an opportunity for learning before school started. So I just want to say we're very grateful for our leads in those particular areas who developed, implemented, and hosted those workshops. All right.
Can I just say that the board is very appreciative of all the extra work that was done and probably continues to be so, but staff taking on making sure kids are supported is really wonderful to hear. So please pass our thanks on to the staff that are responsible.
Will do.
Thank you.
Okay, there has been some school board office changes with regard to offices. And so as reported in the June board meeting, we made some physical moves over the summer. And so our director of instruction, Larry Matten, he has moved to, we'll call it the learning services area, where we have all of our district principals as well as our learning coordinators in that particular area. We also had to find an office and make room for our district principal, Darlene Crane, around literacy and numeracy. And so we made some shifts in terms of how do we find an office for her, along with Wayne Smiley, who is our SIS manager, and he's moved into the office in purchasing. We also, I think for the third year, could even be more because this is during my particular time as the superintendent here, but dispatch has moved to the operations area. And I know that I'm also very grateful for them to be so flexible in that transition. I do know that it will be probably a very safe place for them to have their office. Presently, right now, they were working their way through a very dark building in the wee hours of the morning, but now they have a door that they can access their office within about 10 feet. And so I think as we've got them moved, I'm very appreciative of them for their flexibility. We were also able to move Cheryl Fotis, she's our health and wellness coordinator, over to this building in a very small office so that she could join human resources and be closer to that work. And then I also moved my office to the Director of Instruction's old office so that we could have our Ladybug room back as a meeting space. And so so if you're looking for any one of us, certainly Donna at the front desk could direct you appropriately. Okay, I will move along to number 13. International Student Program Update. So our international principal, vice principal team of staff over there have been doing an excellent job in welcoming and receiving our international students. During the summer, we had a small group here from Japan. They were just about a handful of students who remained here over that particular area, and they had an experiential program that was developed for them. And there were themes such as robotics, environmental studies, fine arts, forensic science, Canadian culture, and English language learning. With regard to our current enrollment, we have over 200 students who are joining us from primarily across Europe, Germany, Italy, Spain, Norway, Belgium, China, and Japan. And there also are there are some other countries represented as well. But overall, that equates to about 156 full-time equivalent students, and there's more applications coming in. But majority of these students are at Cowichan Secondary, Francis Kelsey Secondary, and we have 9 students attending Shemana Secondary, as well as 5 at Lake Cowichan Secondary, or Lake Cowichan, I'll say. So they have half of the students coming in are in quarantine right now, and it is happening within their homestay. So again, very grateful for our community out there who are receiving some of our students and providing those opportunities. They are running activities for those students who are vaccinated during this week as they move into their transition into Canada and into our community. And there is an excellent program orientation that is occurring tomorrow for some of the students who are in quarantine. And overall, there's some great new marketing materials, and soon I'm sure we'll be having our new district principal, not so new, but kind of new, who will be presenting to the board around some of the changes that she has made in the international program overall, around the marketing program, as well as how they've adjusted some of their ways to, I think, improve the business overall around international education here in the school district.
Well, please pass on our thanks. This is not an easy time for international education for our district and probably the world, to go through all of the procedures that need to be followed at this point in time, and to just be aware of the context that people are working through. So we want to thank our staff, especially for all of their hard work at this point in time.
Thank you. I will share that with our district principal, Allison Keppel. Okay, I'm just going to now, I know I feel like I've had a large portion of this meeting and I have a superintendent's update. But I just want to say that we had a great day. This is very unusual for a board meeting to happen on the first day of school. But I do know that people are excited. There is certainly an excitement in the air around a new year, a new kind of new normal. It's not quite there, but we're there. And so there's certainly a lot of excitement. And I know that from my end, that there has been our custodial staff, our operations staff, our payroll, and a number of people who didn't have a summer holiday per se, but they've been certainly getting everything ready in terms of how do we move forward. And I do know that myself and the Secretary Treasurer, we've welcomed back our custodians, thank them for all the work that they've done in the last 15 months in terms of leading the process around keeping our schools clean and safe and all of the above. As well as our transportation have come in and they've done a number of professional learning opportunities. As a matter of fact, transportation would have been hearing from our Indigenous educators, our district principal, Charlie Coleman, as well as our district vice principal, Mary Peter, certainly provided them with a learning opportunity with regard to truth and reconciliation, and just sharing with them on their transportation routes, what are some of the traditional territories that they are actually driving through, and some of the students and who they are as they welcome them into their area. We also know operations did a magnificent job with a number of things that they had on the go around getting our buildings ready, and certainly redoing some buildings, refreshing some buildings. And presently right now, I know we have a painter here who is certainly painting our school board office. And I do know that's something that it looks really good. It's certainly something that I asked one of the painters while he was painting, and I asked him, how long ago do you think that this building was painted, as he was doing some grinding out here? And he goes, I'm not sure if it ever has been. So just so everyone knows, it certainly needed an updo, and it definitely needed a refresh. And so operations certainly organizes those things and coordinates those things. So a great big thank you to all of those people who support the school district and ensuring that they have a great place to land when they're here to support our learners overall. I also want to thank the number of people who worked on Cowichan Secondary School replacement. I know that the board has done much work around that, but we also had some staff members who certainly did some work. Jason Sandquist, our Secretary Treasurer, Darcy Hoff, our current principal of Cowichan Secondary, Cheryl Kors, Associate Superintendent, Richard Dybel, Director of Operations, as well as our Communications Director. Certainly had to spend a little bit more time here this summer working with our Chief Project Officer as we move forward and go in that direction around getting a new high school. Lastly, but not to finish my report, we have some great partners with regard to providing food for kids. And so the Nourish Food Program is certainly working with Thomas Longridge, our Associate Superintendent, around what does our meal programs look like this year. And so Fatima Da Silva with Nourish Cowichan and Corrine Thompson from the Rotary Club of Duncan and the Starfish Program, ready to go, supporting our staff and our schools to make sure that we have the meals and the programs and the lunches that are needed for our learners so that they can come to school ready to learn and feeling good about being at the school and being full, we'll say. Cowichan Secondary, I know that there's more to come around the replacement of that, and so I'm sure that there will be more in the future. I do want to alert the board that the senior team did have a learning opportunity with the BC Superintendents of Schools Association, which was called Reimagining Systems with Equity and Compassion. And so we were able to hear from Dr. Susan Crichton and Dr. Sarah Davidson. They spoke on student learning, mental health, children in care, reconciliation, and certainly are moving all of us in a direction around supporting all of those learners and just helping them along as they navigate this new and different world. There are a number of master's projects that are going on in our district. Presently, we have approved three projects, two related to literacy and one that's related to math. And one of them happens to be improving literacy supports through collaborative inquiry and action. And it's one of our very own teachers named Jennifer Yalagan, and she's working on her master's project in that particular area. So we wish her well through that process. At the school district office here, there has been a number of changes. Like I said already, we've had some changes with regard to the painting. And so it's not quite complete, but it will be hopeful maybe by the end of September. We've also had some updates to the boardroom. And so there is some new carpet, some new technology, and some tables that will be more friendly around how we have to meet when we can meet in person. And so that will be new for some of you when you are able to come into the board office. And then I also want to say that We're very proud and very excited to say that all of our schools now have a rainbow crosswalk. And that's inclusive of our board office area. So if you get a chance, if you want to do a drive-through, we have all of our rainbow crosswalks. They have been completed. There's only one that's yet to be done, and that's on Thetis Island, because there's more work to do because of its gravel parking lot and how do we actually work toward that end. And so there'll be more conversation with that particular community and on how we can actually make that work. And so the colors, the direction are vertical rather than horizontal, but was also informed and supported by CB2U Social Justice Committee. And certainly that dialogue did occur as we worked through those processes. So very excited to have that finally accomplished.
As is the treasurer.
I will end my report right there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent. It's just amazing how much work has been accomplished, and we really do value all of the employees that worked over the summer to make sure that we're ready for this wonderful new year that we're about to engage in. There is one person who wasn't thanked, and that's yourself. We really appreciate all the work that you're doing as well. And Trustee Croft.
Now, I hear from time to time about the master's theses that are emergent from our teachers. Is there ever any opportunity that any of those teachers would like to share those for others to read?
There is always an opportunity for those to be shared. And in fact, I believe it is a part of the process. And so it is something that we support, we encourage, and because I think there's something to be learned from those master's projects, and they're within our district. So absolutely.
Quick follow-up. So I guess I asked it very nicely. What I really meant, is there any way I can read this stuff?
I am certain that we can encourage them to ensure that you have a copy of those and an opportunity to do so.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
Moving to item 9, Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. My report is really brief this evening, and it's just to show the board the restart funding that's come in as this year's COVID dollars. Last year, the board received almost 3.8 million between the federal grant and the provincial grant for restart funding. So I'm going to share the screen. This year, it's significantly different, as the requirements aren't quite the same. So here's a table. It's broken into 2 different categories, and I'll get to our school district. The first is mental health allocation. The second is health and safety allocation. So I took the pen and drew a circle around it. So under mental health, the additional $70,845 will be coming in as one-time money. And that's in addition to $52,000 that's already received by the board for mental health support. So this year there'll be almost $123,000 for mental health support, and we'll have working on a plan for how to budget and expend that. The second part is for health and safety, so that could be used for things such as custodial or extra cleaning supplies or ventilation work, and that's $204,329. The board has already invested in their operating budget additional protocols for cleaning and health and safety. So there'll be an option either to enhance those or to use this funding and basically pay back the budget for some of the items that have already been included. So we'll bring that back to the board when we work through the amended budget process. So in total, $275,000 for the coming year. And that's all I had to share.
Thank you. Any questions for the Secretary Treasurer? Okay, moving to item 10, committees and outside organizations. The first is to receive the highlights of the June 24th, 2021 Board Ad Hoc COVID Transition Committee meeting. Trustee Kimler.
I would like to ask the board to receive the highlights from our June 24th Board Ad Hoc COVID meeting.
Thank you. Moved by Trustee Kimler, seconded by Trustee Croft. Any debate? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 10.2, Provincial Council, Trustee DeGroot.
Yes, I'm just letting you know that if we are planning on sending any motions to provincial council, which we haven't as up to now, they have to be in by September the 20th. And the agenda will be out October 1st, and I will send that to everybody at that time so you can see what the motions are coming from the province.
Thank you. Are there any motions forthcoming from the trustees at this point in time? Okay, so we'll move on to item 11, upcoming meetings and events. And if you could put those up, please. You'll see that our schedule is full. All with good things and good intent, and you'll see most of the Zoom things coming through there as well. Is there anything that staff wishes to point out, or trustees? Okay, I just mentioned to you that the conference business meeting for the morning only, so 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Okay, any questions? Okay, moving to item 12, correspondence. We have two pieces of correspondence. First, from the Office of the Premier, just responding to our letter. And the second one is email from Peter Rusland. And there is a suggested motion that we receive the correspondence. Trustee DeGroot and Trustee Croft. Is there any debate on that motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving through new business to question period. There was a question on chat. Let me just, it says, old business signage at school district buildings. Which building specifically will be getting the Hulkaminum welcome sign? And the board's motion passed that all schools and district buildings would be having the sign at their entrance. Any further questions from our audience?
There's nothing being entered at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Kemmler. All those in favor? Motion carries.